Hello and a warm welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy, where your dreams are our mission. This is Yatharth here. Today in our UPSC view video, we'll be discussing a topic from environment. We'll be talking about the invasive species. We'll see what species we are talking about, what are invasive species, where they have become an invasive species, especially Ross Island. We'll be talking about this. Okay, we'll be discussing the Conservation of Biological Diversity Act, the WPA Act of 1972, and how they see and deal with the invasive species. We'll be talking about the impacts of invasive species and invasive species in India. So already PYQ have been asked on Prosopis juliflora. The PYQ came in UPSC prelims. Okay, so this topic is quite important. Let's see what invasive species we are talking about. So the one that is being discussed in this lecture is cheetal. So this is known as cheetal because of these spots on his body. Okay, these in Hindi are known as cheet or chitta. All right. Now its name is scientific name is Axis axis, and common names are spotted deer. So please remember it's a deer. It's not an antelope. Okay, deers have these antlers. Indian spotted deer. And the habitat where it can be seen are grasslands and savanna and open forests of India as well as Nepal. So you can spot it at multiple places in India, but especially in the northern and the Deccan plateaus. Alright, the IUCN status is least concern, so it's not a threatened sort of species. Now let's talk about its behavior. So UPSC has already asked us behavior of 2-3 species such as elephants, as well as in 2023 it asked about multiple options, all right, their diurnal behavior and so on. So it lives in herds. Herds means groups with females and youngs, and males are mostly solitary. All right, that means they live alone except during the rut or the mating season. Cheetal are active through the day. In the summer, time is spent resting under the shade, and sun's glare is avoided if the temperature reaches more than 27 degrees Celsius. Their activity peaks at the dusk approaches. All right, and that is also the time predators are active. Okay, now let's talk about where they have become an invasive species. Okay, so the answer for this is the Ross Island. The Ross Island. We'll also be dealing with why. Okay, let's first see the Ross Island. So this is a map of the Andaman Island, not the Nicobar. This is the Little Andaman and this is the North Andaman Island. Okay, now here is a Ross Island, this one. Okay, so we see the Ross Island here or the Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Island here. Okay, so let's talk about the news first. So in a bid to manage the teeming population of cheetal, that is spotted deer in the Ross Island, the Andaman and Nicobar Island Administration recently sought help from Wildlife Institute of India, that is WII. Okay, now let's see that why they have become an invasive species and what are invasive species basically. Okay, so we see in the ecological food system that there are producers or primary producers. All right, so these are mostly the plants which give the primary energy. Okay, so sun is the source of all energy in the world. Okay, on our earth. So by photosynthesis they produce the energy and it goes to the primary consumers such as herbivorous animals. Let's say this cheetal. Now there has to be a secondary consumer which is acting as the predator for this primary consumer. Alright, now in absence of the predator, what happens? That their population grows by and large and reaches the carrying capacity of that ecological habitat. Now, upon reaching the carrying capacity of that ecological habitat, it either becomes sort of stable or grows even lesser because of unavailability of further resources. But this impacts other species because the resources that this species is using, okay, they are inadequate now for other species of the same habitat. So other species who cannot compete with this species, they die off, all right, or become extinct. So this is the issue with the invasive species. All right, now let's talk about the 3D map. So this is the cellular jail, very popular. Okay, it is on the Andaman. And recently VD Savarkar movie was shot here. All right, this is the Ross Island. This is the Ross Island. Now it's officially known as Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Island. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Island. Alright, so this is the point. Now let's talk about how and why they became a native species, sorry, invasive species in the Ross Island. Alright, such a small. So the British are the culprit here. Okay, so British introduced the cheetal to the island in early 20th century. Okay, such as when they were ruling India, 1920s or so, and having no natural predators there. Okay, so what did happen? And they were also good swimmers. Cheetal are also good swimmers. So their population increased by a lot. Okay, over the past 2 decades, studies have examined that seemingly innocuous herbivore deleterious impact on the island's native flora and fauna. So as I told you, they reach the carrying capacity when their population increases and it impacts the flora. As the flora cannot grow further, okay, it becomes unavailable to other species as well as fauna. So while they are only eating plants, they are making the plants unavailable for other species, and that is why other fauna is dying, which is not able to compete with this cheetal species. All right, because of its capacities of being, let's say, fast, being a good swimmer, all right, and so on. So in natural selection, it is winning because the absence of any predators there. All right. Now let's talk about what are invasive species. All right. So, what is the definition? The Convention of the Biological Diversity, that is CBD. So, it says that invasive alien species, that is IAS, not the IAS that we are wanting to become. So, species whose introduction or spread outside their natural past or present distribution threatens biological diversity. All right. So, its introduction, first of all, it has to be introduced. This is the first thing. All right. And spread outside their natural past or present distribution. That means wherever it becomes an invasive species, it is not naturally evolved there. It has to be arrived there. It has to be arrived there. Second, what it does, survive. So it survives in the environment and then thrives. That means its population grows. So first of all, it appears on the carpet, then it survives. All right. Some may even die, but then it thrives. So this is the basic definition of the CBD as per the CBD, invasive species as per the CBD. Now these include animal, plant, fungi, and even microorganisms, and can influence all kind of ecosystems. All right. So what CBD basically says, that the definition is arrive, survive, and thrive. So this means that these species need an introduction either through natural or human intervention. Okay, this arrival can be natural also. This arrival can be natural also. And survive on the native food resources, reproduce at a fast rate, and edge out native species in the competition over resources, as I explained to you here. Alright, this is the most basic point of this invasive ecosystem or invasive species mechanism. Alright, now let's talk about the WPA 1972. So, what does our Wildlife Protection Act say? Okay, so it defines these species in a narrower context than the CBD. What does it say? So they are defined as a species of animal or plant. Okay, it's only dealing with the animal or plant. It's not dealing with fungi and microorganisms. All right, and which are not native to India. So it has not to be native to India. It should have come from somewhere outside, and whose introduction or speed may threaten or adversely impact wildlife, it or any its of habitat. All right, now what is the issue with this definition? These three things are the issue. So one, it leaves space blank for any fungi, microorganisms, and so on. And second, it says that India should not be the place where this species is native. So when we talk about the cheetal especially, so cheetal is not an invasive species as per the WPA 1972 because it is native to India. Alright, it has not been introduced in India from outside, but we are talking about Andaman and Nicobars. So geographically separated from India by 2000 kilometers. Alright, it's still a part of India. So according to WPA 1972, it does not classify to be a native invasive species. All right, now let's talk about what are some examples in India of the invasive species. So list of invasive species in India is dominated by certain species of fish such as the African catfish. We'll be talking about this. Nile tilapia, This is the Nile tilapia. This is the red-bellied piranha and alligator gar. Okay, this is very important, alligator gar. Okay, and turtle species such as the red ear slider turtle. So let's see about the African catfish. Where did it come from? It was brought from Bangladesh. It was brought from Bangladesh. In India, we are talking about. Okay, for the aquaculture purpose. Aquaculture is also a very good separate topic you should read about. So the occurrence of C. gary pinus, that is the scientific name of African catfish, has been reported from several inland system of India. That means it is flowing now in the inland rivers. Inland rivers such as the Ganga, Yamuna, Satluj, Godavari, even in the Periyar river of Kerala. So we can see the spread, okay, from the Gangas, all right, from the Yamunas, then the Godavari, then the Satluj, and so on. And in the lakes like the Vembanad Lake, okay, Vembanad Lake is very very famous lake, okay. So now we can see how much they can spread all of a sudden in absence of their natural predators. Now let's talk about the second one, that is the red ear slider turtle. So it is one of the favorite among exotic pet owners. Okay, it is initially introduced as a pet and many have been abandoned in local water bodies later on. So this turtle is native to North America. It is native to North America. Notoriously edges out local freshwater species owing to fast rate of reproduction and their following competition for food. Specimens are thus routinely seized by authorities as a measure to thwart. Thwart means stop or slow down. Okay, illegal trade of wildlife. Now let's talk about many of these species. Let's say this talk cotton mealybug. Okay, so it is also native to the North America and it affects a lot of cotton crops in the Deccan, India, or basically southern India. You can put this in the Deccan, India. So the cotton mealybug, that is the Phenacoccus solensis. So it affects a lot of cotton crops in this Deccan, India. So it was brought from Americas, okay, and it affects the cotton plants, the cotton crops in the Deccan, India. All right, especially Maharashtra, we can see that the most cotton crops coming from here. All right, and this is where this cotton mealybug is a special problem. We can also see another case study and example in the Kevladev Park of the Bharatpur. So here again we see what African catfish. You know this from the picture. African catfish. So what is the issue with this? Again, it is predatory and it spreads very very fast. Okay, so African catfish has been prey on waterfalls and migratory birds as well. So it can eat these birds. All right, these are the migratory birds. So African catfish can eat these birds, very big in size. And studies have also shown that the proliferation of cheetal in the Andaman has affected the regeneration of native vegetation. So it eats them so fast that these plants cannot grow back, as the deer are known to consume seed and seedlings. So it even eats the seed and seedlings, the small plants that come out of the seeds. All right. Now, lastly, we need to talk about what are the economic impacts of the invasive species. So, in September 2023, very recently, UN founded Intergovernmental Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, that is IPBES. It brought out an exhaustive report on the invasive species. And the report showed that around 37,000 established alien species were introduced worldwide by humans, with roughly 200 new alien species introduced every year. Okay, that means they are introduced in the populations or the ecosystems where they are not native, where they do not belong. All right, and in absence of predators, they just, let's say, demolish the ecosystem completely. Coming to next thing, so along with the causing dramatic changes to biodiversity and ecosystems, the global cost of managing them. Okay, they have to be managed. Eventually, either they have to be killed, which is known as the culling. Okay, they have to be killed. You can see multiple cases and videos of the hog. So this became a very big problem in the Americas, in the USA. So they are shot there by helicopters. All right, you can see multiple videos on the YouTube also. So same may happen with cheetahs or some other way might be applied. Okay, so along with causing dramatic change, they have a global economic cost of 423 billion. $423 billion annually, and especially reported in 2019 last. So these costs arise out of damage IAS inflict on an area's natural system. So they have both sort of costs, such as first of all damage, the repair of the damage, and management. Okay, so we've already seen examples in India. You see the example of the cotton mealy bug, cotton mealybug, African catfish, and so on. And now we are seeing the example of cheetal in the Ross Island of Andaman and Nicobars. All right, we know that British introduced it in Andaman and Nicobars, but it is native to India. And please remember that it is not acting as an invasive species as per the WPA 1972. It is acting as the CBD's definition. What is the CBD's definition? Arrive, survive, and thrive. So please know that how invasive species destroy the ecosystems and what are the economic impacts related to them. So that is all for today's lecture. Thank you very much for your presence. This is Yatharth here signing off. Have a great day, keep studying, and see you soon.